Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. That's one of the great things about these online courses is we can take them from wherever we are, whenever we are. So my name is Chris Davis. I'm going to be your instructor for this course in Port and Terminal Operations. I want to welcome you to the course. This is going to be a lot of fun. It really is. This is an exciting topic. There's a lot going on right now in port and terminal operations, and I'm really excited to get started. So I would like to welcome back those students who are continuing in the program. Congratulations on making it to this step. That is a significant accomplishment in your life, so we should celebrate it. And same thing with those who are new to the program. I understand we have a few of you out there who are brand new to our program, so welcome. I thought for those of you who are new to the program and for those of you who have been here in the program for a while, I thought I would just take a little bit of time today in our first week to review my expectations as the instructor, which are very much the expectations of the institution, Mass Maritime Academy. So we're very fortunate to be in a great program there and associated with a great program. So I'll talk a little bit about that, what our expectations are, and really run through the syllabus, which is going to have most of the expectations for you. So we'll have a chance to go through that. And then we'll also talk about the assignments and talk about the readings and just generally get a sense of what the course is going to entail. And then after that, we'll kind of dig right into it. But we'll wait till next week to really start the big dig, so to speak. So let me start out by referencing a couple of things. The first thing I would like to reference is the presentation that I have prepared. So this presentation is the way we're going to operate here is I'm going to have a weekly webcast, share with you kind of some thoughts about the weekly reading and what's going on in the industry, and then we will kind of go through that. Then we'll have a discussion period. So consider that to be more of our kind of in-class period, where we get a chance to discuss some of the issues of the day. And then we'll be introducing assignments as we go along. I'm going to introduce our first assignment today, and we'll have a chance to actually start working on that as well. So for those of you who are new to this software and new to the Canvas, if there's anything that I can do to help you, and even the more experienced folks, please reach out to me and we'll see if we can't get your questions answered. So like the new folks here, I am also a new instructor at the Academy, and in this program. So, but very much looking forward to moving forward on this. I have a career in port and terminal operations, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like as we move forward. So, again, welcome, and we will start with our second slide in the deck. So let's talk a little bit about the syllabus, and that's where we'll find some fun facts about me. So again, this is the Maine Maritime Academy, Latrobe Sullivan School of International Business and Logistics, and this is BA-651, Port and Terminal Operations in Global Logistics, Spring 2018 course syllabus. So we're kind of going to start going through that. So that's the extent of my public literacy exam. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what class we're in and where we are. So that's great. So this does start on January 15th. If you're reading this, then or you're viewing this, then we have kicked off the course. 4-hour online. It is an online course, so we'll talk a little bit about what that means and what that looks like. I am your instructor, Chris Davis. You can call me Chris. You can call me Mr. Davis. I answer to just about anything. I'll talk a little bit about myself and give you some background on me from both the academic perspective, where I'm coming from academically, and also where I come from in the world of the practitioner or the real world. So this program is a great program because we bring together the academy, academics, and we also bring practical experience to these courses. So it's a real exciting opportunity for you not only to get a foundational sense of what that industry or what this industry looks like, what supply chain looks like, but also, from a theoretical standpoint, from an academic standpoint, but also from a practical standpoint, what that means. One of the reasons we're in an online course is, in many cases, we are in many cases, we are working professionals. That's why in many cases we chose this. I recognize that. I, too, am a working professional. So I will definitely take that account as we move forward. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means going forward. So there's a bunch of initials, acronyms after my name, and I will explain to you what each of those means. So the first acronym you'll see there is SPHR. So that is a senior professional in human resources management, and I am a certified professional, certified senior professional in human resources through SHRM. That's Association of Human Resources Management. It's kind of the equivalent of a CPA for human resources. So in the past, I've had a wide range of responsibilities in the human resources field, negotiating union contracts, and also had human resources functions under me. So that's kind of where that comes from. I have a Bachelor's of Science, a BS, from the California Maritime Academy. So your main Maritimes Academy's counterpoint out on the West Coast. In Vallejo, California. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Nautical Industrial Technology. At the time I graduated, very similar to Maine Maritime Academy, we had exactly two majors. One was in deck and one was in engineering. So I was a decky. But I'll get more into that and what that means for us in a minute. I also have an MBA, Masters of Business Administration, from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. And I also have a MA, Masters of Arts, from the Army War College. Talk a little bit about that. In Strategic Studies is what that Masters of Arts is in. I also am a PhD candidate, and I say candidate because I have done everything except graduate and get a graduation date for my. So I've successfully defended my dissertation, and I'm in the process of the dissertation has been submitted. It's being edited for publication, and once that's done and a few other administrative hurdles are done, hopefully in the next couple of weeks I will be officially a PhD graduate from the Hatfield School at the university, or at Portland State University, where my PhD is in public affairs and policy. So spent the last 5 years getting my degree. So let me talk a little bit about the expectations for this course. This is a master's level course. All of us that are taking this course have a bachelor's degree. There may be a few of us who actually may have masters, I'm not sure, but all of us at least have a bachelor's degree. And the system that we operate under in academia is such that a bachelor's degree signifies that you have essentially been exposed to a body of knowledge. So whatever your bachelor's degree is, that signifies that you have been exposed to a body of knowledge. Similarly, when you move from high school to college, that's a very big transition. A lot of the strategies that you used to be successful in high school weren't transferable to college. So you learn new strategies. So just as that was the case as a bachelor student or undergraduate student, now as a graduate student, the game has once again changed. And the rules have once again changed on you as well. I realize for some of us that's very unfair because the success that we had as a undergraduate student led to our acceptance into this program. But again, the expectation is much higher for a master's degree program. So the expectation is, as the name implies, that you master this body of knowledge that we're working at. So mastering that body of knowledge requires you to use a different skill set. requires you to be very curious about the world around you, requires you to do a lot of research about what's going on. So, and then once you go to the next level, to the PhD level, really what that means is not only have you mastered that body of knowledge, but you've also added to that body of knowledge. So in my case, I actually added to the body of knowledge in port operations through a dissertation, which was a series of case studies about innovation in the public sector. So and what I chose to study was public ports in the Pacific Northwest. So that was my dissertation, where I explored how ports innovate, what makes ports innovative, and we'll touch on a little bit of that as we go forward. So while I don't expect you to contribute to the body of knowledge, I do expect you to master it, and mastering it requires that you go outside of the confines of the books that the texts that we have for this course, and do some research, outside research on your own. So that is really the big major difference. Is the expectation for research is much higher. The expectation for your writings are much greater. But I have no doubt that you will be successful in this course. I am committed to your success, and so if there's anything that I can do, if you feel overwhelmed or you feel concerned about anything, please reach out to me early, and I will definitely work with you to make sure that we can set you up for success. Because at the end of the day, that's what I really want to do, is set all of us up for success in the learning. So that's a little bit about my academic background, my background in the academy. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about my professional background. So as I mentioned, I graduated from California Maritime Academy, and upon graduating, I intended to go to sea, but unfortunately, when I graduated, there weren't a whole lot of jobs. So I ended up working ashore for a company that may be familiar to you, Toyota Motors. The world's largest manufacturer of automobiles, or very close to, or at least in the top 3, last time I checked. So started with them in their corporate headquarters in port operations, and I spent most of my career at Toyota in supply chain areas. So within the automotive industry and also heavy equipment manufacturing, there's really 3 pillars of logistics. The first one is what's called manufacturing logistics. And that has to do with moving material from the first-tier suppliers, typically from first-tier suppliers, but in other cases second- and third-tier suppliers, into the manufacturing plants, the corporation's manufacturing plants, for use in the manufacturing process. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is what's called outbound logistics, which typically is the movement of the finished vehicles from those manufacturing plants to the dealers and distributors, and ultimately to the customer driving that particular vehicle. And then the third pillar is what's called sales and service, basically aftermarket parts. And so once you have so in most cases, manufacturers sell complete vehicles, or they sell you a vehicle one part at a time. And typically the one part at a time is to cover service or warranty issues of parts that are no longer functioning the way they should. So I actually have experience in all 3 of those areas. With Toyota, I handled North American inbound logistics for our manufacturing plants. Also with Toyota, I handled port and terminal operations for our finished vehicles coming from overseas and going to overseas destinations. And then my current position is with Daimler, which you may know them for the manufacturer of Mercedes-Benz. They also have Freightliner trucks and Western Star brand and Fuso as well. So for that group, I work in the aftermarket area of logistics. So pretty much a full career within the global supply chain. And within manufacturing, major manufacturing firms, and so that's kind of my career. I also did a brief stint while I retired from Toyota. I should say that. And then I actually worked for the Port of Longview as their Director of Operations for a while before I joined Daimler, who I'm currently with. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll also ask you in the discussion period a little bit about yourself. So be prepared to share both your academic experience with me and also a little bit about your professional experience and what you want to accomplish in this course. It's very important for me, so I know kind of who you are. Hopefully you get a sense of who I am and during this presentation. But I'd also like to get a sense of you and kind of what you want to learn, what your interests are, where you want to focus in this class. This is a collaborative learning environment as far as I'm concerned. I'm looking to learn as much from you and as you learn from me. So I'm hoping, and I hope we can learn from each other because we've got a diversity of experience here. We want to take advantage of that diversity of experience and talent to understand what's going on. I'll also tell you one other thing about me is I'm married. I live in Portland, Oregon. It's the other Oregon, or the other Portland, out here in Portland, Oregon. Married and have 2 children. And my wife, as a practice administrator here in Portland for a health care organization. And both of my children are grown and have graduated from college and have moved into the professional world. So that's a little bit about me. I'll also say that I also had the privilege of being in the Navy. So I actually retired as well after 30 years in the U.S. Navy. A couple of years ago, I was a 06, a captain in the Navy, and my last assignment was in the Pentagon working for the Chief of Naval Operations. Most of my career was in the Strategic Sea Lift community, Military Sea Lift Command, so logistics, ports for the Navy. So that's a little bit about me, and we'll move on from now. So contact information, how to get a hold of me. You can call me anytime you'd like. There's my number. If you don't get a hold of me, please leave a message. Hopefully I'll be able to pick it up on the first ring, but if not, leave a message and I will attempt to call you back. You have my email address. I think we all know how to get into, hopefully we all know how to get into first class to check our mail, so please, that's available. Office hours by appointment. Please reach out to me either by email or by phone if you need to do that. Here's a little bit of a course description, what we hope to accomplish. I am not going to read the course description to you because I think you can read it yourself. And again, don't want to make this a public literacy exam, but you can kind of see what the course description is. We're really going to focus on port and terminal operations, not only maritime port and terminal operations, but other port and terminal operations. We're also going to talk about intermodal and all of the different intermodal areas that we focus on. You can see the objectives there. We want to develop a foundational knowledge of the complex interdependencies of port and terminal ownership, governance cultures, both domestically and international. So that's really important, both the domestic side we're going to be talking about and the international side. This is truly an international business. That it is ports and terminals are part of a global supply chain, and it's very helpful that we understand what their role in that global supply chain is. But then also beyond that, what are the other modes and the other areas that port and terminal operations talk about, impinge upon. We want to understand and assess the role of ports and terminals play in international maritime logistics in the global supply chain. We want to recognize how transportation modes interact through ports and terminals in intermodal and multimodal systems. Today, most systems are multimodal. You have heard intermodal, and I would suspect that you're very familiar with what that is, and we'll continue to talk about that as we move forward. We want to demonstrate critical thinking and analytical skills in evaluating strategic management opportunities for port and terminal facility development and operational improvements. So there's really 3 things that I'm really want to work on here as base skills as we move through, or really what does a master's degree say to a potential employer about an individual? And I think there are 3 things that it says about you as an individual. The first thing it says is you have been exposed to critical thought. hopefully you're capable of picking it up and moving forward and thinking critically. And as an undergraduate student, I think the expectation is you have been exposed to critical thought. I think as a master's level, we expect you to engage in critical thought on pretty much a routine or systemic basis. So that's one thing that we want to talk about. The second thing is communication skills. I will tell you, people will know you and have formed an opinion of you before they have ever met you. And the reason that they will do that is through your writings. A lot of people will never meet you, but they will have an opinion of you based on your writings. So it's very important that we're able to articulate our thoughts and ideas in a cogent and coherent manner. So one of the things we're going to be working on in this class is those skills, how to communicate, because as a boss I once had said, you can never over-communicate. However, learning to communicate is critical. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how we do that. And then, of course, the third thing is you have committed to a program, and you have and that shows commitment. And employers value commitment, value the ability of employees to commit to something and see it through to fruition. So those are really kind of the three things the three base skills that we'll work on in this class. And then of course, within those base skills, we also want to make sure that we have a good foundation in ethics, and we'll talk about that as well. Most organizations today are organizations that view issues of sustainability, issues of good governance, and issues of compliance as important areas, and we will also focus on those as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So those are kind of the course objectives. I also mentioned demonstrate a high level of communications effectiveness, which we kind of talked about there. We'll talk about the two texts for this book. The first one that we'll talk about is the song text, which here is an example of that one. Oh, let me see if I can. Nope, sorry about that. There we go. That's the song text, and then we have the Rodriguez text, which is this one right here. So let me talk a little bit about the texts. They are both required. I am going to, when I lecture, I hate to use that word, but essentially that's what I'm going to do. So as I present my material, I'm actually going to use the text as the base for organizing the material. So that's good, because if you read the texts, then you'll definitely be prepared for the presentation and for the assignments as well. So these texts are, I would suggest get them used. There's a lot of Amazon and a number of different websites you can get the text used. Feel free to use back issues. You don't need to. I would encourage you to get the most recent edition because it has the most up-to-date information in it. But if not, if you want to get an older text, that's fine. That shouldn't be too bad. And again, try and get them used. And then if you want to keep them, you certainly can. Or obviously there's other options, renting them. As well as buying new, pretty much up to you. These three are actually very good texts. They are what I would call canonical in the field, so it's our best thinking. These texts are very much European-centric, Eurocentric, which is not necessarily a bad thing since we're talking about international. But a lot of the things referred to are more specific to European ports and terminal operations and maybe U.S. port and terminal operations. And even within the U.S., there's very much a difference between East and West Coast and Gulf State ports. I've actually worked in the ports of Boston. So I had a terminal. I was the terminal manager of a facility in Boston. I also was a terminal manager, facility manager down in Jacksonville, Florida, working with Jacksport. Of course, up in Mass, it was Massport. Also in Long Beach, California, was assigned to a port there for a while, and then Portland, Oregon as well, and Benicia, California. So I've worked at both public and private ports. Benicia was a private port. and I've worked in both worked for both terminal operators, and I've worked for both and port authorities as well. So hopefully that experience will serve us well as we move forward. So both of those, I did list 2 supplemental texts. You can certainly the tally text and also the Lightergren text. Feel free to pick those up. Again, supplemental, when I talk about doing outside research, these are great texts to pick up and read and to get some additional views on port and terminal operation. Online material, other than 2 texts that I mentioned, okay, the song text, all right, and the Rodriguez text, all right, these you'll be required to purchase on your own or acquire on your own. Everything else, if I refer to it in class, then you will be able to see it online, with the exception of the 2 supplemental texts that you'll need to acquire yourself. I'm going to move down and talk a little bit about. All right, as we move through, so we talked a little bit about the course description. We talked about the course objectives. We talked about the required texts, the 2 of them. We talked about the supplemental texts, all right, both of them. Now we'll talk a little bit about online material. A great resource is the Nutting Library. So that has a tremendous wealth of resources there for you to be able to study. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that, and feel free to contact the library directly if you need any assistance, or certainly I can work with you as well. But our library is a tremendous, phenomenal resource. We're very fortunate to have it, and we should definitely take advantage of it. It's one of the real jewels of this program and Maine Maritime Academy. We do have accommodation for learning differences. So if you do if you do need an academic accommodation, please contact the folks in our accessibility service office. There would be more than happy to help you and make sure we're accommodating your unique needs. Academic honesty statement. Every assignment that we turn in really is a test. It's a test not only of have we mastered the material, but it's also a test of our integrity, our academic integrity. One thing you have is that no one can ever take away from you is your integrity. Guard it very closely. There will be times in your life where it will be very easy to turn the other way, to take the easy way out, and very tempting, and maybe potentially even lucrative. So I would really fight that. Your reputation in this industry is of paramount importance. So protect that reputation as you move forward, and one of the ways to do that is through academic integrity. Feel free to talk about the ideas of others, but make sure and let the reader know that that is not your idea, that is someone else's idea. It's great, and I expect you to bring in other people's ideas, on both sides of a subject, and would expect you to do that and would reward you for doing that. However, make sure that it's very clear to me and the reader that you're bringing that material from a different source. And that really is expected. Again, this is a master's level course. We expect you to master the material. We're not expecting you to add to the body of knowledge. If we're expecting you to add to the body of knowledge, then we would be doing research and going out into the field and collecting data and other things like that. We're not doing that. We're simply trying to master what we have. So the best way to show your mastery of it is to talk about what others who have come before think about a topic and how they address the topic and what their perspective is. So feel free to bring those perspectives in, but please make sure and always, if you're going to directly quote them, make sure that's done in an appropriate manner. If not, if you're just going to bring in an idea, or make sure and attribute that idea or thought to that individual. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like as we move forward. How do we attribute things to other people? But you should always look to do that whenever you can in this course. But again, I would really stress for you, make sure and either quote the person directly or make sure that you acknowledge where that idea came from. And that really has to be part of, and again, that doesn't mean I'm looking for simply a regurgitation of what other people have said or what other people have thought, but more importantly, what I'm looking for is how do you organize those ideas, organize those thoughts in a coherent manner to make an argument and support an argument as you move forward. And when we look at an argument, we have to look at both sides. So whether an argument is for or against, we should look at both sides and present both sides equally for the reader. All right, so let's talk. So that's academic integrity. So please, academic integrity, very important. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate. I will definitely support you on that and get you what you need. But be a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit strict on that one because that's all we have is in the integrity of this program. All right, so assignments. So we're going to basically have 5 assignments. I've listed all of them there. I'm planning to talk about those assignments as we go forward. Today I will talk about one of the assignments we have, which is our weekly discussion, and we'll kind of kick that off as each week goes forward. What I will do is I will take time to talk about another assignment. So I'll kind of introduce the assignments as we go along each week, so not to overwhelm you, but to kind of ease you into these assignments. So the first one is a weekly discussion assignment. There will be weekly discussions each of the weeks that we meet, with the exception of the spring break, and then we'll probably wrap up the discussions before the end of the term as we prepare for our group projects. So so I'll talk a little bit about individual writing assignments. That's our first one there. So that individual writing assignment, there's going to be 4 individual writing assignments, and each of those 4 the good news is each of those 4 individual writing assignments is going to be 1 page in length and only 1 page in length. That also is your biggest challenge, is how to get your topic down into 1 page. So the intent here as we go forward with this assignment is, for each of the individual assignments, is you're going to be given a real life situation and something that you need to research as if you were working in a corporate headquarters somewhere and somebody approached you about a specific issue and we needed to understand more details about that specific issue or program. So that's really going to give you a chance to hone your communication skills for senior executives. One thing you will find out about senior executives is they only read 1 page, and that's it. And sometimes they don't even read that. These folks are very busy. When you're dealing with senior members in your organization, they've got a lot of different things going on, and they've got a lot of different items competing for their attention, issues competing for their attention on a day-to-day basis. So really what they need is a concise statement. So all you really get is 1 page, and I'm going to keep you to the 1 page because I can't stress enough, when you get into the work environment, that's what your boss is going to want to see. That's what your senior manager is going to want to see, is 1 page. And what I found out in my life, in my career, is if you can't articulate it on 1 page, then you're probably having some problems with your thoughts. So you can probably you need to go back and really think about the way that you're presenting and thinking about something, because if it takes you multiple pages, it probably means your thoughts probably aren't as coherent as they need to be for senior management. Senior management typically, and again, executive, even on reports that may be 10 or 20 pages, typically the executive summary is 1 page, and in many instances that's the 1 page, that's the only page individuals will read when they pick up the report as we go forward. So that's very important. Having said that, I will now say that we're going to have an individual term paper. And the individual term paper is on a topic that we'll discuss as we move forward. But that, again, is is a research paper. So in the case of it being a research paper, since we are now in academia and not a practitioner, the first exercise in individual writing assignments is more for the practitioner side of it. The individual term paper is more for the academic side of it. So we'll be doing a research paper. So more about that to come, and I'll certainly introduce that as we get closer and give you more guidance on that. But that should be a lot of fun. I touched on the weekly discussions. We'll kick off this week with a weekly discussion, so kind of ease into that. So I'd ask that you read all of this. I'd actually ask that you read the weekly discussions area. We're going to also do a group project and a paper. And that's very important as we move forward in the workplace today. Increasingly, or actually not increasingly, almost exclusively, we work as teams. So honing your skills on the practical application of teamwork and working on group presentations is critical. So we're going to have a group project and a group paper. I'm also going to ask you to do some peer evaluations as well. So that kind of gives me a sense of this will be the folks in your group. So I'll go ahead and assign groups when we get to it. I'll assign them randomly, and we'll move forward with that. So all of that will be taken care of in a future class, but just be aware that that's what we're going to be doing. So again, the individual writing assignments, and next week I will introduce to you the individual writing assignments. The week after that, I think I've got to introduce the term paper to give you some time to start thinking about how you're going to do it. We talked a little bit about the weekly discussions, and we'll start that and go over that today. And then the group project and paper, I'll introduce that as we get a little bit closer. And then peer evaluations will happen at pretty much the end of the class. So those are the number of points. There are a total of 1,000 points. So I have put down a grade scale for those 1,000 points. So that is the grade scale. I will tell you my expectation, or the expectation is that you maintain a B or better in this program. My expectation would be that you are at least a B, if not an A in this course. So if you're a C, normally that's an instructor sending you a message, and the message isn't good. The message is you might want to reconsider your academic aspirations. But my expectation is for everybody in this class that you will do the work necessary to get an A or a B, and I have no doubt in many cases that you will exceed my expectations in those areas. So satisfactory, although it does say satisfactory, we all know that it really isn't. Failure, obviously, incomplete, and a withdraw as well. I do have a note in there. We do have turn-in. I believe many of you have used that before. It's a tool that does a couple things. One is it helps to improve your writing skill. The second thing is it can very easily detect plagiarism. So I would advise you strongly against not plagiarizing and basically using someone's idea or someone's words without attributing to them in the broad sense is what plagiarism is. So I would really ask you to please don't plagiarize. Then at the bottom of the page, let me see here. There we go. Bottom of page. There we go. I'll move down to the bottom of the page. All right. So now we're at page. All right, we have turned it in, and then we have a note. And basically, I reserve the right to revise or adjust the syllabus and class schedule as circumstances may warrant during the semester. I will communicate those changes to you via Canvas or email, and we ask that you also comply with the policies in the Maine Maritime Academy College and Student Handbook. The next thing that I would like to go over is the course schedule. All right, you will find the course schedule on page 5 of the syllabus. So we are now in week 1. We've officially kicked off week 1, and this is the introduction and course overview. I do require the required readings are required, so in this case it's the syllabus. And then what we're planning to do is review the syllabus, and we're going to begin the weekly discussions. So that is our first week. As we move forward, you can see we've got other topics. We have other topics out there, and they include the geography of transportation, spatial structure of transportation, the political economy of transportation, transportation modes. In this case, we'll be talking about things like rail and truck, barge service, steamship service, containerized, things like that. We'll also be talking about port management and transport and terminal management up through week 7. So you can see that we have, not only do we have the topics for those first 7 weeks out there, but we also have the assignments. My expectation is, my hope would be that you would read the assignments before you view this video and before you begin the discussion. So really, on any given week, the first thing I would suggest is do the readings, then come to this presentation with that knowledge there, and then participate in the discussion. So if questions come up, hopefully I've addressed them, or maybe I haven't addressed them, or maybe I've actually created more questions in your mind when we go through the presentation period. So use then that discussion period to help to clarify that as we move forward, and add your thoughts and your suggestions as we move forward. I'll put together a couple of prompts. My expectation is, at a minimum, you would answer the questions in the prompts. And certainly, if there's other areas that you want to explore, or other places you want to go in the discussion thread, by all means do it. It's really our chance to be in more of a classroom setting and go back and forth. I'll be checking on a regular basis that activity and kind of tracking it online as well, and then jumping in when it's appropriate. But hopefully most of the discussion will be led by you and also and your colleagues as well. So again, we have the 2 texts. We talked a little bit about those, so we've got readings in those for the first 7 weeks. And then I'm going to, as I mentioned, apparently on week 5, we'll be introducing the individual reading assignments. And then we'll basically, those assignments, you'll have about 2 weeks to complete each assignment, that 1 page. So once it becomes available, by all means jump on it. We want to make sure and have you start on it fairly quickly, so we'll get a little bit of breathing room before we start our first assignment. You can see right after the break, so the week of the 8th, week 8, which is March 5th, the week of March 5th, we will have no breaks. Well, we will have spring break, excuse me. We will have no class, no presentation, no readings, just an opportunity for you to sit back and bring in and breathe a sigh of relief. But if you choose also, you'll have the opportunity to begin the process of continuing to work on your term paper and things like that. All right, so we'll talk then after the break. We'll talk a little bit about port operations and terminal operations. We're going to talk a little bit about urban transportation terminals, and then ports and terminal environmental sustainability. That's an important topic, an increasingly important topic that we'll be dealing with as we move forward in our careers, is the issues of sustainability. Then we're going to talk a little bit about week 13 in transportation policy and planning. And then we're going to have a little bit of time at the end of the course to spend some time in putting together our group projects. I'm going to give you plenty of time in the last couple weeks to work on those group projects, and we'll schedule those group projects, schedule the presentations as we get a little bit closer, but that would be the expectation for this course. So really, this is kind of the way we'll be doing these. I will most likely open up the individual term paper research the week of the 8th for you. If you want to start working on that, you can certainly start at that point over the break. We do have, and then we have an assignment that's due. So that's kind of where we are right now with the syllabus. So if there's any questions, let me know. The finals week, we will not have a presentation or class the finals week. So that'll give you a chance to relax a little bit. I will tell you that This course the readings are a little bit front-loaded because the expectation here, again, it's a master's class, so I would like you to try and master the material as quickly as you can. So we have kind of front-loaded a little bit of the readings, and then that front-loading will give you a little bit of extra time on the back end to do the research you need, the outside research you need. So as you see, the lightings get a little bit lighter after the spring break, but that doesn't mean that things really lighten up for you. That just gives you, I want to give you a little bit extra time to be able to bring in some outside resources and do some outside research. So that's where we are on that. All right, so now we'll go, so I also have provided you the mission statement for the Academy, and also our vision statement, and also our school's vision statement and their mission statement as well. So if you haven't already read those, please take a minute to read them. That's what we want to focus on, where we want to be going. And then we also have the institutional objectives and then our own program outcomes that we would like to see in this course. So if you have any questions on what those are, feel free to give me a shout, but those are also there for your reference as well. Okay. So I will, if you have any questions about the syllabus, please reach out to me and ask me. You can, like I indicated before, you can do that either through email, or if you'd like to call me directly, you may call me directly as well. So we will move on. The next topic that I would like to review with you is our weekly discussion. So in the weekly discussion, I have put together some thoughts on how discussion should kind of operate. So as I mentioned, this week, for example, this week we have 2 questions that I posed. So I would expect you to answer both questions and then respond to at least 2 other classmates' posting. However you want to handle that is up to you, but at least 2 other. So really, answer each question and then respond to at least 2 other classmates posting each week. And I've also put together some criteria to give you some idea of kind of how I look at the discussions and what I'm looking for in each discussion. I'm not going to grade each discussion. You'll get an overall grade at the end, but I'm not going to look at each one and go, okay, this week you got an A, last week, or this week you got an A, last week you got a B. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take it in totality. The biggest thing about the discussions is you've got to participate, and you've got to participate every week. That's very, very important. So please keep that in mind. Don't miss a week. If you're going to miss a week, give me a call, send me an email, and say, hey, Chris, hey, Professor Davis, I've got this conflict. I don't know if I'll be able to participate, and I'll work with you to cover that. But I really need everybody on a weekly basis to read the material, to view this video, to follow along with the presentation, and to get in and contribute to those discussions. That's very, very important. So what I'm looking for as I go through is I'm looking for relevance. Is your contribution relevant to the topic or the question that is at hand? Important. Does your contribution address a significant issue related to the question or the topic? Is it thought-provoking? Does your contribution demonstrate a high level of thought, not simply an off-the-cuff response? Originality. Please do try to be original. And you'll have the challenge you have here is there may be other students out there who have your same thought, and if they put it out there first, then that's a little bit. Then I'm not looking to have somebody simply regurgitate what someone else said. so you're probably going to want to rethink your response and certainly build on the response of the other students. So, if you're simply, restating another student's post, then that's really not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a critical analysis of that and respectful. That's the other thing I want to make sure is, we're part of a community here at Maine Maritime Academy. It's a great community, and as being part of that community, there's a lot of benefits to us. That name, Maine Maritime, is synonymous with a high standard of academic integrity and expertise in producing practitioners in the field, and we want to maintain that expectation as well. So when people see that you graduated from this program, they know that you know about how the global supply chain works, and you've mastered the global supply chain. So again, that's one of the things I'm looking for. In addition, timely. Again, I mentioned that sometimes it's difficult, to be timely because we all work. But I would really encourage you to do that. I will try to the extent possible. Technically, I'm going to try to release each week on the Sunday before the week begins. So you'll at least have that part of Sunday evening or afternoon to work on the course, and then of course you'll have Saturday and Sunday the next weekend. Technically, I will post. I'm supposed to post technically at midnight on Sunday, which is also the beginning of Monday, and then that's kind of the end of the week. So all of the assignments are kind of tied to that. So I'll try to open up the course early when I can to give you a little bit of a head start as we go forward. Certainly you have the readings. So if you want to read ahead, you can certainly do that with our readings. That gives you an opportunity to do that. And the last thing I'll be looking for is how thorough is your response. Is it focused and to the point? And is it well written and well organized? We've all got to read a lot of this. We're all going to be reading your posts. So please give some thought to correct grammar, correct spelling. In many cases, what I would suggest is, which is kind of what I do, is I actually use Word and go through Word and put my response together, my question together in Word, and then copy and paste it into Canvas. So that's something that you can do as well. I talk a little bit about a low quality contribution, and essentially it's the opposite of all the above. But you can certainly read what that means in there. So again, I'm looking for quality in your contribution. I'm looking for relevance, importance. I'm looking for you to really have thought through this topic and maybe bring a different perspective and value your perspective. Many of us are working in the industry or are familiar with the industry, and even if we're not working in the industry, I think that gives us a different set of eyes to look at what's going on in the industry that in many cases is as valuable, if not more valuable, than what we're seeing from the practitioners actually in there. So one big thing I'd like you to do is find your voice here in this class and be respectful of others' voices, even though you may disagree with those and think very differently. That's great. There's nothing the matter with that. But make sure that your voice is respectful of other people's voice, and we'll move forward. Because at the end of the day, both in academia and as a practitioner, you need to have the respect of other people, and they will in turn give you the respect that you deserve as for your position and your personal thoughts. So please do that. Originality, timely, and thorough. So those are the things that I'm looking for in our first week's discussion assignments as we move forward. Let me go back to the syllabus. Okay, so we have completed the syllabus, and I talked a little bit about the weekly reading instructions. So you'll find these instructions, by the way, online. So feel free to, at your leisure, review these and read them. Make sure you understand them. If there's any questions you have, definitely feel free to give me, to reach out to me on those questions. So as I kind of go back and look at where we are, all right, so where have we been? I've welcomed you. We've talked a little bit about myself and my goals for the course, and I'll be looking forward to hearing your goals for the course. We've talked about the course description objectives. We've talked a little bit about the required texts and also the supplemental texts and additional resources. And my hope is that you would be able to navigate to the library and find anything you need. There we go. Whoop, excuse me. Sorry about that. Special information. We talked a little bit about a combination of learning differences and how to reach out to the school to address those issues. We talked about academic honesty and the importance of that, and we've talked about the vision and mission statements. Overall, what we're trying to do here today. And on the third page, we talked a little bit about the assignments, the individual writing assignments, which will start in a couple weeks. The individual term paper, the weekly discussions, the Port and Transport Terminal Group project, which I'm really excited about. This project's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go in an area and do some analysis that is really cutting edge. We're going to be using some great resources here to do things that you, at some point, if you stay in the port and terminal operations and you move up in the organization and get to a senior level, if you're not already in a senior level, you're going to be asked to do some high-level analysis and evaluation. And this is all about doing that so we can come to a good business outcome for the organization. So I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a great opportunity to really to do some evaluation of a project of your choice. I'm going to be looking to you to suggest to me projects that you would like to analyze and explore. If you don't have one, that's fine as well. I'll also provide you a list of ones that you can choose from, but be thinking if there's one that you may have out there that you know about or one you're involved in, this might be a great opportunity to use that as well. And then we talked a little bit about the course grading policy. I'll be grading all of your assignments and posting the results of that online. For the most part, some of them will happen near the end, so you if you have a question about your final grade, let me know. But as we go through, I'll definitely be giving you individual writing assignments. You'll see those grades, the term papers, all of those. You should see all the grades. So kind of go from there. All right, so that is what I wanted to do this week overall, was just kind of whet our appetite for a really exciting course and talk a little bit about how the course is structured, what we'll be talking about in the course and looking at in the course, and then a few comments about next week's class. Again, first, read the assigned readings and view the weekly video. Then participate in the weekly discussions and complete all assignments. So that is what I'd like you to do for next week. So we'll move forward on that. So I wish you the best of luck in this course. Again, this is a really exciting course. It's a dynamic field. This field is very much changing as we move forward. There's a lot of topics that we go on. It is port and terminal operations are pivotal to the economy and how the economy operates, either successfully or unsuccessfully. A lot of it depends on the ports. How trade works or doesn't is in many cases tied up in port operations as well, in terminal operations as well. So it's a fascinating area. I will also tell you that it is a little studied area. Academically in the United States, there's a number of reasons for that. But port and terminal operations are kind of are not well studied, which is one of the reasons that I chose to study them in my dissertation. In addition to the fact that I've been heavily involved with ports all of my life and terminals all of my life, great opportunity for me as well. So I'm really looking forward to this class. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to get a chance to meet you, to get to know you a little bit more, and to participate with you in our learning journey together. So having said that, good luck in this course. And go ahead and start posting, reading the discussions and posting. I'm very much looking forward to them. Thank you, and have a great day and a great week and a great semester.